It's easy to not be content with what we just got, to not be content with what we already have. I feel like we all, as fans, always look forward and always think, what can we get next? And so that's why I am here to talk about 5 potential villains that we might see in a potential Spider-Man 3. We're not even guaranteed to get Spider-Man 3, but I think it's pretty safe to say that we will get some version of Spider-Man 3. Number 1, Chameleon. Here's a character that they highly teased in Spider-Man 2, and I could have listed him for a possible DLC inclusion, but I thought that his tease was so small that it will be played up for something bigger, that it will be part of a story point in Spider-Man 3. Not that Chameleon will be a main villain, because I don't know if he's strong enough to be the main villain, but I think in his case, you could do something interesting with, if Peter Parker is in fact retired, if Chameleon shows up and starts to pretend to be Spider-Man and ruin his name and do a bunch of things to make Spider-Man look bad, that could be a good reason why Peter Parker has to come out of retirement in Spider-Man 3 and clear said name. Also, Chameleon has some sort of connection to Craven the Hunter. He's his brother, I guess. And so maybe he'll be out for revenge. Maybe he blames Spider-Man for Craven's death. Number 2, Eddie Brock. This is something that may or may not happen. We might have gotten all of the Venom that we will get from the Insomniac Spider-Man games, but I think because hopefully fans were pleased with Venom, and especially pleased in playing as Venom, if we don't get a spinoff, if we don't get a solo Venom game, I think Eddie Brock showing up as a side character and maybe potentially giving us another excuse, another reason to get another Venom just to be able to do it all over again, who is really going to complain about that? Number 3, maybe more likely, Carnage. If Carnage is not a DLC story expansion, which would make a lot of sense given his connection also to Yuri and her vigilante story arc, I think Carnage as a big villain, maybe not the main villain, but a pretty big villain given the level of insanity that he brings, given the level of a cult-like following that he can also have along with him. And it can almost serve as the last remaining remnants of the symbiote story. You don't have to do a whole huge emphasis on it, but it could still be some leftover, some carryover. Number 4, Michael Morbius. I know we're all pretty down on Morbius as a character after the Jared Leto shitty ass films, and I do not blame people. I too am down on this character. But you have to think back about some of the comic book stories that were decent, but more so I'm thinking of the animated series, where I thought Morbius was treated very well, fairly interesting, and I think having him interact with Spider-Man, something that the movies just decided not to do. I think that can make people warm up to Morbius as a character, find him more interesting, make him more of a tragic villain that you can try to save, but he can't help himself and he's going around being a goddamn vampire. Number 5, and I think this is something that we desperately need for Spider-Man 3, Norman Osborn becoming Green Goblin. It's very possible that Insomniac, they might change stuff up. They might swerve us. Look at how they had Harry Osborn be Venom, or look at how they switch things up and change certain origins of other characters, and how they introduced Miles, and how they had Mary Jane be Scream. Like, Insomniac is willing to do different things, and they're willing to subvert fans' expectations. I think they're teasing it very hard. The Green Goblin will be Norman Osborn. They're constantly having him wear green outfits, constantly having him talk about a potential G serum. It's possible that Harry Osborn wakes up from his coma and becomes Green Goblin. This would not be the first time Harry Osborn would be Green Goblin before Norman Osborn. Or it's possible that they go with Hobgoblin instead, and instead of Norman being it, maybe we all assume so, Peter assumes so, and it's a twist and somebody else ends up being the Goblin. I don't know. I think Norman has been such a presence in both games that it would make the most sense to just have him go full evil, have him, whatever he might potentially start working with Dr. Octavius on, and his now hatred for Spider-Man, blaming for what happened to Harry. It all adds up. It all makes sense. And I think being able to fight Green Goblin in this new engine of Spider-Man games will be so cool, so satisfying. I'm just imagining gliding around or having to chase somebody in said glider. So guys, let me know in the comments below what are your thoughts on my list of villains that I want to see show up in Spider-Man 3. Do you have other villains that I maybe left out? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!